Yeah, so for everyone that is listening, this is my first go at a podcast, and I think that Patrick, it's your first time like being any kind of interview, right?
Yeah, like officially, like this is like the first legitimate, attempt at recording any kind of conversation that I've ever had with anybody. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
so
it.
experience for all of us. This is wild. We're doing big things.
Yeah. We're podcast virgins
Oh
popping
my,
our cherries.
popping the cherry. Um,
Is this not safe? I mean, this is like PG. What's your audience like?
dude, I don't
Can
give
we
a
cuss and we
I don't give a fuck.
sick.
Like I'm probably gonna upload it to Facebook, and my dad's gonna not listen to it, so I don't care.
Cool.
If he did listen to it, he'll probably laugh at other shit.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
but yeah. So, dude, like, what's your name? Tell everyone your name.
Yeah, my name's Patrick Brooks. I run a clothing brand called Overdue. So I guess I'm the CEO. I call myself entrepreneur. I do everything from photography to video. I do cover all the social media, run marketing campaigns, design ads, run the website, customer service, like anything you think of. I do everything.
Dude,
With the help of other
hey,
people, of course.
heck yeah.
Yeah. So
Where are you from, man? You're from San Diego, right?
yeah. So I'm from San Diego, born in San Diego. Lived up in the Bay for a little bit until I was about 7, 7 years old. I was up in the Bay Area, like Vallejo. It's like an hour away from San Francisco. Moved back down to San Diego, and yeah, pretty much went to high school there. Graduated, went to college there. Have a bunch of friends out there, and yeah, that's
Did you go to
pretty much
college?
where I call myself from. I went to a private college that probably nobody has ever heard of. It's called Platt University. It's a media arts college. It's right next on the street from San Diego State. So
Oh, okay, cool, 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 cool.
yeah,
Did you like know like coming up like in high school and all? Like, did you have an affinity for like media and like kind of getting into that kind of stuff? Like, I think your Facebook profile says you're listed as like a web designer.
yeah. So um, pretty much what there's so many influences, but basically, I would have to say my brother-in-law Ben. He was like a huge influence for me getting into graphic design. He was a graphic designer, and when I was younger, he was just dragging me around to like I vividly remember going to like a printer, and they were running like they had huge, I don't know, 6 foot long printers that were just running crazy ads, and they were just going. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So just being around him, I found a kind of I took an interest in graphic design, and barely in high school, like I knew I always wanted to do something with computers. So I went to my counselor and I said, hey, put me in a computer class. And she put me in this like basically like learn how to type class. And the first day I was just like blowing through it. The teacher was like, why are you even here? Like, you know how to type and you know how to use a computer. You should go to graphic design. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So my teacher, Mr. Grable, another huge influence in my life, like he was just one of the coolest teachers that I've ever had. And the way he taught things and put things into perspective really connected with me. And after that class, like I just had a different perspective on and really just like a huge motivation to get better at graphic design. And that's when I knew like this is something that I wanted to do.
Okay, so you wanted to do it as like starting a brand, or you just didn't care what it was? You just wanted to be involved with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I never really was like, let me start a brand. I mean, like in the beginning, it wasn't just like I'm gonna start a brand and you know kill it or whatever. It was more just like I knew that I loved computers and I knew I loved being around them, but I didn't know what that meant. So like even when it came to like picking like a major for college, I was like computer science. Yeah, that sounds cool. Like I I didn't know what it like what it all encompassed. So yeah, I was originally going to go to school for computer science, and that would have been more like IT. And for the longest time, like I thought I like wanted to be a programmer, really because I was just like, oh, they make money and that's just sick, you know, like just kind of thinking of like what like in my head I was like, oh, IT is like people are like hackers and they fucking type code all day and like, you know, people don't even know what the fuck they're doing and you know they can like hack the government or shit like that. Like I always thought that was kind of cool, but I didn't really realize that I'm actually more creative. Like I didn't realize until way later on that I'm more creative. And yeah, I do like dealing with like computers and electronics, but I'm actually like artistic and creative, and I wanted to go something more that route. So then
Hmm.
when it came down to like going, well, once I was like going to school and stuff like that, that's when I realized like, all right, dude, like you're not a programmer, but you do like computers. What can we do that kind of joins those two together, like creativity and you know digital kind of I don't know technology? And that's when I came across like Platt College. Started doing I got my bachelor's degree in media arts, and just started going from there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like the exact opposite, man. Like I can see an image in my head, but I can't put it into words. So like I'll kind of give a general like even like every time I've gone to get a tattoo, it'll be like this is what I'm thinking of. Like, can you do your best to try to like replicate it? So like I'm very good at like seeing something and being like, yeah, I love that. I want to do that. But just as far as like being creative and like trying to draw or like even coming up with that image in my head, I can't do it. So like props to you, man. Like that's something I have tried to do before and I just can't. So
Yeah, dude, that's like that's a really good point too. Is that I think there's I mean there's different kind of people in the world, obviously, but I think that there's people that are creative and then there's people that are more technical. And I think it's just important to focus on like find out who you really are and where you like sit on those sides, and then once you figure out like what your strengths are, focus on those. So like yeah, some people are more creative than others and they like doing music and art, and some people are more technical and they like dealing with numbers and math, you know, stuff like that. So
yeah.
there's no like right or wrong, but definitely just being aware of that really helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. And once I figured out like, okay, I can't draw worth a shit. I can't like make music or sing. I don't know how any of that works. Like, but I can enjoy all of it. Like I can appreciate everything. Like I can see something and be like, oh, they put a lot of effort into that and I'm gonna appreciate it and I'm gonna support them however I can.
Hmm.
Um, so I think I think I'm more of a supporter when it comes to that kind of stuff than anything else. Especially if it's my friend. Like if my friends are doing anything like trying to pursue an endeavor, it's I'm all about it. And that's just because like that's how my dad was, you know.
Hmm.
He was always all about whatever I wanted to do. So you're 27, right? You told me that.
Yeah, dude, I forget all the time, but you're right. I'm 27.
Once you get past 21, it doesn't even matter.
It feels like it.
There's no more milestones. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw you wrote down on the questions like how old are you? And yeah, short story, I'm 27. Long story, like I mean, I constantly forget. I was in Korea for 3 months not too long ago, and they have a different way of calculating age. Like they say your birthday is like the day that you were conceived, I guess,
mhm,
or it's like 9 months before your birthday. Don't quote me on that. It's really complicated, but basically, like Korean age is different than international age. And
mhm.
so in Korea, when people would ask, I would say I was 28, and then like realize that like if I stayed in Korea for my birthday, I would have been like on that day in Korea, I would have been 30. In Japan, I would have been 29, and in the States, I would have been 28. So
Oh,
I was
man.
always super confused. Like
That's
didn't like for the longest time after Korea, I just thought I was 28.
that's crazy. I wonder how they like justify that, like what their tradition like brings them.
um, yeah, I didn't get too into it, and even Koreans couldn't explain it with like the language barrier and stuff like that. But I think what I got from it was like it's like the day that you're born is actually the day that you were like conceived. So like it's not like the actual day that you come out into the world. It's like 9 months before that. And then on the first of each year, everybody gets a year older. I think if I understand it correctly. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
super interesting. But yeah, it was I don't know, just kind of throwing that in there.
So you're into graphic design and computer stuff, but you're also into cars, right? Like I
Yeah,
see
dude. I
what brand is built around is like, cool cars and like the whole Japanese car culture.
yeah, definitely. I yeah, saying that I'm into cars is like a huge understatement. Like one time I was with my girlfriend and we were walking and I saw a car and I was like, oh, that's sick, like you're just walking on the street and like I can't even I like get so distracted. I didn't hear what she said. I was like looking at the car and like trying to figure out what car it was or what engine it had, whatever. Um and she was like, "Oh, you get distracted by cars really easily." And without skipping a beat, I said, "I don't get distracted by cars. Cars is my life, but everything distracts me from life." So like what I was trying to say was like I actually like cars is my life and everything else is just a distraction. Like
Right.
legit like that's so like I can't even say like I'm into cars, like shit like legit like that's just my life. Like
The other
so
things sometimes that aren't cars.
yeah.
Like cars is the main thing.
Mhm.
Is there a reason for that? Was your dad into it? Did you have friends that got you into it, or just like being a kid, would see a cool car and be like, I want one of those someday?
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's a lot of things that go behind it. Obviously, I can't say obviously, but I think most guys can relate to just sick cars, like just badass cars. Like it's just
Yeah.
kind of like a guy thing. Not saying that girls can't get into it. Obviously, there are girls that appreciate cars and are into cars and stuff like that. But I think one, it's a guy thing. Two, my friend Anthony is like my best friend. He mentioned that like we used to skate in high school, and he mentioned that like a lot of people that skate after like either they're still skateboarding or whatever, but after they're like most people that are into skateboarding typically end up into like modifying cars.
Yeah.
um and I found that pretty true for most of my friends at least. And then just other things like other kind of generic influences like Fast and the Furious, obviously. Like you see the cars, Tokyo Drift is like everybody's like like everyone wants a Skyline or a Supra and shit like that. So yeah, just movies like that growing up. My brother-in-law, like I said, another huge inspiration in my life. He was always working on cars in the garage, and my sister at the time, my sister back then, she was like saying, like, you better be in the garage helping your brother out because if you don't, like, you won't know how to learn how to work on cars, and you can't be a man if you don't know how to work on cars. Like, you're not gonna take your car to the mechanic because they're gonna rip you off and shit like that. I was like, okay, yeah, like I'll go out there and didn't know what the hell I was doing, and my brother'd be like, pass me a socket. I'm like, what's a socket? And he's like, that thing over there, like so just stuff like that. And then I did, yeah, just all those things combined really started my interest in cars, and that's where I'm at today.
Okay. And I know you had an S chassis. Was that wrap pink or that was a wrap, right? Like a vinyl wrap?
So yeah, I've had a couple S chassis, but the one that you're talking about is the S15 Silvia. I had that one. It was like a premium pink pearl was the actual name of it, and it was actually pink.
What? I didn't know that was like a factory thing.
So it actually wasn't factory. I went to a shop called TMS in Hiroshima,
Uh,
and they painted the whole car. Yeah, stripped it down, fixed dents, flared out the fenders, fixed the whole body kit and everything like that, and resprayed the whole thing. And yeah, it is a factory color, but it's the factory color for a Honda K car, which is called the Honda N box, which is like some
really?
little square in car in Japan that's like super tiny. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So you got that when you were out here in Japan or when you first got here, maybe? I don't actually know, but like coming up, like going through high school or like, during college, like what kind of other stuff did you have?
Cars wise.
Yeah, dude.
Oh geez, the list is so long. It's like actually embarrassing.
What's
Uh,
the what are the like the stars? Like what's some of your favorites?
no, I can go through the whole list too if you have time. Or okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's actually easier for me just to go down the list because I'm gonna forget.
Okay.
So the very first car I got was like a Suzuki Forenza, which is nothing really. Like I couldn't even figure out what that car was. It was just like a hand me down. My mom, like I got my license, and my mom's like, "Here you go." I'm like, "Cool, thanks, mom." Like I was just stoked to have a car.
Yeah.
Um, One day I came home from school, and my car was like I opened the garage and the car is not there, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like walked in, both my parents are there, and I'm like, "Hey, where's my car?" And they're like, "Oh, we sold it." And I was
Oh, no.
like, "Wait, that was
What?
my car, you know?" And so she was like, "No, my friend really needed a car, and we wanted to help her out, so you can pick up any car you want, under like 15K or something, which is like a shitload of money."
Yeah.
Um, but but the thing was like they only wanted a new car because I didn't know how to maintain cars, and they wanted something that had kept its value or something. So like, yeah, you can get like like a Honda Civic or
Ooh,
whatever. They said Honda Civic actually,
cool.
and
Man.
then I was like, okay, well, I don't really care. Like, it wasn't super into cars. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I was looking at other cars, and I was like, oh, this Mazda 3 is kind of cool, and it's the same price. Can I get that? And they're like, yeah, you can go ahead. I was like, all right, cool. I got a Mazda 3. Didn't know anything about it. Just like a little sedan. It's like 2010 at the time. Um, then I started getting the cars, and my friends were getting like manual transmission cars, and I was like, I want to learn how to drive stick. And my brother had like a stick shift like Scion B. He was teaching me how to drive stick, and I was like stalling it all over the streets of Oceanside, like getting honked at stop signs and shit like that. I went to like a McDonald's drive-through and um, like paid for my food, got the food, said thank you or whatever. I said thanks, and I tried to take off, and I didn't. I stalled right at the light or at the window, and the girl's just like looking at me like, oh, okay. Super embarrassing stuff.
That's the only way
But
you learn embarrassment. That's my belief.
yeah, I think mistakes. I think you learn most from failures and mistakes,
Yeah.
which can also be embarrassing at the same time. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was fun. So yeah, just trying to speed up through the story because those cars aren't even the fun cars yet. But my neighbor at the time owned or ran the forums for Mazda Speed. It was just MazdaSpeedForums.net or something like that, and he always had like Speed threes parked outside his house, like homies just coming through. He had a Speed 3 himself. It was pushing some crazy amount of horsepower for a Speed 3, and yeah, dude, like he was totally bashing on me. He's like, "Why would you get like a normal Mazda 3 when you could have got a Speed 3? It's so much faster and this and that." And so like I started looking into like Speed 3s, and I was like, "Oh man, I did kind of mess up. I should have got a Speed 3, not a regular 3." Um, so I was looking at ways to like get out of my car and get into something like a Speed 3. Um, but I couldn't get a Speed 3 at the time because the only one I could afford was the lower one or the older one. And my parents would be like, "Oh, what the hell? Why are you going to trade in your brand new car for an old like Speed 3?" So I switched over to a Volkswagen GTI because I wanted something that was turboed, um, but still stick.
Yeah.
And I had the hatchback at the time, so it just kind of made sense for me. Um, so I had like a Mark V Volkswagen GTI. It was cool. It was like pretty quick. Actually, it was a lot faster than anything I ever needed. And I was just like driving around, and that's like the first car that I actually modified. I started working on getting like little parts, like I don't know, coilovers. It came with coilovers, but like just like literally like the smallest thing, an intake. Like I installed my own intake, and I was like, sick. Like this thing is so fast now. Like just shit
Dude.
like that. Like 5 horsepower, not even.
I
And
think everybody's
yeah.
like that. Like, yeah.
You think everybody's like that? Like just
Yeah.
install like their intake and like think they're like killing everything on the streets.
Well, like just installing your first thing that on a car,
Yeah.
your first time, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's totally like an experience, right? Like
Yeah,
and then you're the one that did it, so you're like, yeah, this is sick, and you're just super hyped
for sure.
and it's like totally in your head. You're like, yeah, this car's so fast now. Like it's you can really feel a difference. It's like, dude, you just put in an intake, man. Like that's 3 horsepower. You didn't even tune it. But yeah. So like that, but that's so like that's the first car that like I really got into. I don't know. It really got me into cars. I started going to car meets. I was racing on the streets because my friends were like, you have a really fast car, don't you? And I was like, no, don't think it's that fast. And like, I would race everybody. Like, most of my friends at the time were like out of high school, so like, or just out of high school. So like, most of my friends at the time had like older Hondas with all bolt-ons and stuff, and I was keeping up with them, and they're really impressed. And I was just like, I didn't really know like this car was fast, and it wasn't. But like, I guess like out of my friends, like I was the fastest car. Um, so that was interesting. Something I never really cared about, but I was like, I don't know, just in the scene, right? Like just shit that like most car people do when they first like kind of get like you wash a car, you take it to a car meet, you meet other people that have the same car, you install intake, you fuck around on the streets and stuff like that, and you just make friends. And so that's the car that really started it for me.
I think a
Yeah,
GTI
go
is
ahead.
hard to get into.
What's that?
Like to get into the scene, the whole thing. Like the GTI is perfect.
GTI, yeah, dude. Like the GTI was cool because it introduced me to the Euro scene, which I think is like one of the coolest, like chill, welcoming, friendly like car scenes, and out of like the subculture of like the car scene. Like Euro guys are super friendly, for the most part, like that I've met, like just always down to help each other out, and just like really cool in general. Um, and that really helped me out because when I meet other like people that own like GTIs and stuff, they're just always super excited, um, to help out. Like my friend Chris at the time, he was the one that pointed out that I had coilovers. Like I had no idea. Like I thought my car was completely stock, and he's like, "Dude, this car's lower than stock. Like I think you have springs." And we like took a look under the car, and turns out I had like KW coilovers, which were pretty expensive.
Oh shit.
Um, yeah, like they're like one of the best
Yeah, no,
people
Kate,
that,
awesome.
yeah,
Kate, like a staple for
yeah,
sustain.
dude.
Like, that's awesome. That's actually a good story.
Yeah, so I was like legit, like I was driving the car for like 3 months, didn't even realize that I had like coilovers, let alone like KWs, and went to a car meet, and they're like, it was nighttime, and they took their flashlight on their phone, and they're just like, dude, you have coilovers, and I think they're KWs, bro. And like later on, took the wheels off and found out like, yeah, I had KWs. so so yeah, after the Volkswagen, after the GTI, I I was working at a dealership at the time, and uh test like I took photos of like the inventory of cars that came in, and one car that came in was a Honda S2000. Like somebody traded one in, and I was kind of driving it around, like, probably faster than I should, and was like, oh, this car is pretty cool, like it's pretty sporty, like I could totally see myself driving something a little bit more sporty. And at the time, the FRS just came out. So that day, I went home, and on the way home, I test drove a Scion FRS. And I actually was really not impressed. I was like, this car is very slow. It's not as fun as I thought, like compared to the SUK, it wasn't that fun. So I didn't think anything of it. The next week, my friend test drove an FRS, and I sat in the back of it, and the salesman let him like really push it and drive it through some windy turns and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, this car is sick. I really like how it handles. It's fun. Like it's not fast, but it's a great car. So I ended up getting an FRS, and then that's when I really started um, modifying. I kind of got into drifting. I was doing donuts and stuff like that around on the streets, um, and it was just, yeah. I started modifying it like crazy. Slammed it to the ground. Bought wheels. Just little things like intake, exhaust. And that car like started like the kind of like JDM. That's when I started like getting the JDM community and learning more about drifting and like real drive cars. So then I like was driving it around and like almost crashed it, and I realized like, okay, I should probably get like a cheaper car that like I won't feel so bad about crashing. Um so I got at the time I got a 9th gen Honda Civic Si,
Hmm.
for commuting to work, and then I picked up a SC300, which is like an older Lexus, and then that's the car that I actually would drift, and like friends and I would like go to the streets, and that's just the first time like I actually started drifting. So that car started drifting for me. Then I got like a little Miata NA, which was cool. Geez, I can't even remember. I got a Infiniti G35 sedan, which is manual. I picked up an S13 hatch with an SR in it, and then like blew the SR in like a month, and then tried to rebuild that. That didn't work out. And then yeah, and then I picked up like a Lexus, like a current gen Lexus IS 200T.
Uh-huh. Those are cool. I like those. I've always seen
Yeah,
those. Like, it's a 2-liter turbo, but it's cool. Like, I like the way the new Lexuses. I like the styling that they have.
mm-hmm. Yeah, they're super like really unique. I like how like I'm like a Toyota guy at heart, honestly,
Hmm.
and I like how they just I think Toyota kills it on designs. Like even like the new Camrys look cool, like they're front wheel drive, but they still look cool rolling around.
Oh yeah,
Um, just shit like that. Like just that's just my stuff. So I got that, slammed it, arms and everything, and then moved to Japan, and yeah, that's when I picked up the S15, and that's I think that's what really put like Overdue on the map and myself as well, and yeah, just like painted it pink, slammed it, drifted it, everything you can think of. Like I was doing it and just like kind of living the dream in Japan.
absolutely. That actually segues perfect into the next kind of topic is, how like why did you come to Japan? Like how did you do it? Like we were talking yesterday, and um, that's where I realized like, oh, this would be really good for us to talk about in the interview is having the balls to actually like drop everything and just kind of just do it, like not really worrying about anything else, just kind of just doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. I think I have a pretty strong opinion about this, but I believe that what like what limits are like we're just limited by ourselves, and we stop ourselves from doing what we really want to do because of fear. And I think once you realize that like okay, I'm not doing this because I'm scared, and once you can like change that and overcome fears and just put yourself out there and say like yeah, I'm scared, and yeah, this is like I'm really uncertain, and I'm fucking like terrified, but I really want to do it. Like once you realize like you can overcome that fear and just go for it, like you'll just be, I don't know, just like sense of fulfillment, and you really start to achieve like goals that you've been wanting to do. and and then you also just realize it's not like it's not as crazy as you thought it was, it's not as hard as you thought it was, it's not as impossible as you thought it was. It's really like just taking that first step
Yeah,
and just going for that.
absolutely. And that first step is always like 98% of the time the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Just climbing up and like building yourself up and doing it. So what was the first step for you for like coming out to Japan and like just doing it?
Mm-hmm. um the first step, I would like to say my first step was getting the job in Japan, but I actually started before that. Now that I think of it, um, basically the last 5 years I've been coming to Japan once a year for about 10 days or so. I'd always like save up and plan a trip to come to Japan. Every time I went to Japan, I would wonder like, hey, can I see myself living here? Do I have what it takes? Like, do I even want to live here? And every time, like, I would just kind of like like take it in and pretend like okay, if I was living here, this is what it would be like. Okay, I really like that. Okay, I don't really like that. And that's kind of how it started. Then I started taking classes. um Still not fluent or like anywhere close to fluent, but I started taking classes just to be able to get around, started learning about the culture, and that was really my first step. Then after that, yeah, applying for jobs and finally getting the job made it a lot easier, for not easier, but made it to a point where I was comfortable enough to to make the move out here, and that's what really started it all.
What was your like? What was first off? What was the job that you got you to come out here?
The job was digital media marketing,
Okay.
and I can get into that if you want. But basically, it's just I was basically doing what I do for Overdue, but for the U.S. government, I guess at the time.
Oh, so you were working.
Yeah.
You were working with the government. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I can even say that. Should I say that? Yeah, I could say that.
That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's working for
I
it's
was
kind of like
wondering,
FBI shit.
I was wondering, like, like,
In 2013, it is
okay,
now 2020. So yeah,
jeez,
apparently this is like 7 years. No, I think I started around October, so almost 7 years old. Um, and it's had its phases. There's times where like the first year, like I didn't really consider myself really starting it because it's just like my friends and I. Even like the third, fourth, fifth year, it's still like, dude, honestly, to this day, sometimes I don't even call it a business or a brand. Um, Sometimes I'm just like, dude, I'm just doing what I love. Like, and if it turns into something great, like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I moved to Japan to like start my business. And when I'm talking to people, I'm like, yeah, I'm still starting my business. And it's like, I can't let go of it and just say like, yeah, I started it. And yes, it's my business. And yes, it's a brand. And yes, it's legit. But when I look at it from the outside perspective, like a lot of people like, dude, we have people in Switzerland buying fucking banners and coffee mugs, and then we have people in like the East Coast, the West Coast, Canada, Japan, Australia, especially like just shit like that. And I'm like, wow, man, this really is something. And when I just take a step back and look at it, I have to be like, dude, yeah, this is legit. Like this is something real.
yeah. Actually, when I was on Overdue's Instagram page, it shows you at the bottom of your bio, like, who of your friends follow this person,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw that my buddy, God, I forget his name right now when I'm trying to. His name's Jones.
Cool.
Last name's Jones. I met him in the nuclear pipeline, and he's from Atlanta. And I saw that he
Mm-hmm.
followed you, and I was like, oh my God! Like, he's into the modified JDM scene as well. He has
Sick.
he bought an ISF, and before that he had an IS 300.
Nice.
Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
he like the IS 300 is stupid low. Like, it's
Sick.
his ISF is just a cool ISF.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I saw that he followed you, and I was like, oh my God! Like that's when the moment hit me. Like, he's got a reach. Like
Mm-hmm.
like a guy that I met that's never met Patrick before.
Mm-hmm.
I've never encountered like that kind of experience of
Mm-hmm.
knowing somebody that is followed by somebody else that I know that, like I can go down
No
the,
mutual friends. Yeah.
yeah, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like that's when it hit me, like how actually big like your whole thing was of Overdue.
No,
Um,
that's sick. I love stories like that. Like honestly, like stories like that are what makes it worth all doing. Like it's not the money. Like I don't even make money. Like I don't consider like what I do making like real money. But like, yeah, it's not about like making money or making it big. Like stories like that, like just hearing about like how people, yeah, just like know people that did it, like that know me or whatever, or have seen it before. Like, hey, dude, I saw this car in fucking like downtown San Diego, and it had your Overdue sticker on it. Like, that's sick. Like, or people tend to take pictures, and like that's what makes it worth doing for me because like to me, it's an art, and I
yeah,
just want to share my art. And the more people that appreciate it and support it and fuck with it, like that's what that's what it's really all about.
absolutely, because you kind of get like a community and, like, dare I say, like, family. Like, you never
Mm-hmm.
met these people before, but you know for a fact, like, you can call probably most of them up and be like, hey, like, you like I'm coming to your I'm coming to your city. Like, do you want to meet up and, you know
Mm-hmm.
show me around, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really important part of that's probably the most important part of social media, like, is being able to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely like the networking. And it goes both ways. It's like, I mean, like I could hit up maybe your friend and be like, "Hey, I'm in Atlanta, you
Yeah,
know, can you show me around?" But it also goes both ways, dude. Like if somebody comes to fucking Yokohama, Yokosuka, Tokyo, like, dude, I'm more than happy to like meet you at the airport and fucking show you some ramen and maybe take you to a car meet if there is one. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's yeah, it's just networking.
Yep. And that's the most important part of social media to me, I think, like I said.
Hmm.
So as far as like getting into the car culture and the car scene out here, how difficult was that? Because I know it took me from August till April, or I think it was April when I hung out with Brandon. But all the way like that whole time frame, like I hadn't done
Yep.
anything car related or even ridden in a car since I've been out
Yep.
here, except for a taxi. So like, how was it getting into the car scene, like not knowing anybody,
Hmm.
whatever it may be?
That's an excellent question. I you say the word difficult, so I'm gonna answer it that way. Difficult, I would say not at all. It's not difficult. For I think the car scene anywhere. I don't think I said this actually, but I basically a couple years back I quit my job, or 4 years back I quit my job and traveled around Asia for 3 months, and I was always looking to get in the car scene. So like even in the Philippines, like I didn't know anybody or didn't even know there was a car scene out there, and I was able to find that out. Like because of social media, because of technology, because of the internet, it is extremely more. I don't know how to just. It's just like the world is more accessible. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I didn't really like know. Maybe I knew a couple people or knew of like people that were in Japan, but I didn't even know where in Japan or anything like that. But like I said, like cars is my life. So like when I first came to Iwakuni, like in Japan, like I didn't know really anybody, but I was at the hobby shop like every weekend, like literally like I would just be the dude that just walked, like I just walk everywhere, and I walked to the hobby shop and I would just sit there until like a car came in, and then I'd be like, dude, your car's sick, what have you done to it? Fucking, like what plans do you have? Just, like just being a car guy, you can kind of just like, we all have this unspoken like kind of like we all have cars in common, right? So like I feel like anybody can be comfortable enough to go up to somebody else that has a car, and like we're gonna be cool for the most part. And like we just both know that we love cars. So like I would just go up to people, and honestly maybe I annoyed some people, maybe they just didn't even want to talk. I don't know, but like I just knew I had to be around cars, and I was like hobby shop every weekend, any car show or car meet that I knew of, like I was fucking going up. Like I don't even know Japanese, and like I would see like Skylines, S15s in the parking lots of like grocery stores, arcades, and I'd walk up to the people like if I saw them by their car and just try to speak Japanese and try to get their Instagram, or even if it just said like this is cool, like eating it, like that's cool, like, or like kakui, like that's like sick car. Like if I could just say like that, like
Mhm.
that was already like something for me. So I was, like I said, like cars in my life, and I was just always about it. So when you say difficult, like no, it was not difficult. But did I have to put in a lot of work? Fuck yeah! Like I was always on Instagram, fucking any city. Like I'd go to the stories on the city, scroll through, like it'd be like hashtag Hiroshima, and I'm like scrolling through the whole feed until I see a picture of one car. Then I hit that guy up, and I'm like, hey dude, I saw your pictures in Hiroshima. Like, are you local? Fucking, can I take photos of your car? Like I was just all in it. I was all over that shit. So again, like difficult, no, but like did it take
Work.
a lot of time? Did it take a lot of work? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's like what you're talking about with, everybody being into cars, like doesn't really matter where you come from, like you guys have something in common already. Like that's like I've been looked at crazy by friends I was with just because I would see a car and I'd see the dude and like I would just start talking to him like in the middle of Walmart parking lot. I would just start like like literally like talking to him.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I'd come back to whoever I was with and be like, "What is wrong with you? Like you can't. Like, did you know that person?" I'd be like, "No," and they're like, "You're a psychopath," and I was like, "I just I know that if somebody like I kind of treat people the way I like to be treated for the most part, and I know for
Mm,
like if somebody came up to me and started asking me about whatever car I was in at the time, I would be more than happy to have a like no matter what I'm doing, unless like my wife is literally having a baby right now. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about my car and like what they're into, and maybe
mm,
linking up later or whatever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I absolutely like absolutely a big thing is being able to talk to literally anybody just because you have that one thing in common.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said like if my wife unless my wife's having a baby, like I don't know if Brandon told you the story, but like legit we were at Daikoku Futo one night and we are hanging out and this we met a guy that just
Oh
like
yeah,
kind of came up to us, I think. Yeah, and his
about that, like
wife was having a baby at that time and he was still
yeah,
up in like Daikoku Futo meeting other people with cars and he was hanging out like all night.
yeah.
So
Brandon
Becca was like,
about that
if you
guy.
ever pull that shit with me, like that's not like you better be at the hospital when I'm giving birth.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Something.
that's just how people are with cars. It's like, dude, like some people like it's just really their life.